Rome, the Eternal City, an empire that stretched from the windswept moors of Britain to the burning sands of the Sahara. They built roads, forged laws, raised armies that made the world tremble. But every empire has its twilight. Rome, the greatest of them all, beat, fell. How? Why? What toppled a power that lasted centuries? Rome wasn't just walls and legions. It was an idea, order out of chaos, law replacing savagery. A shared identity that bound millions from countless cultures. Their cities weren't just sprawling masses of stone. They were centers of trade, of art, of knowledge itself. But more than buildings and borders, Rome was a way of thinking. They were engineers, architects, poets, relentless in pushing the boundaries of what it meant to be human. This idea of Rome echoed down the ages. It shaped the rise of Western civilization. Our laws, our governments, even the way we structure our cities. All of it carries the imprint of Rome. Their ambition, their thirst for progress, these traits pulsed through the empire, and they pulse through our veins today. So when Rome fell, it wasn't just the death of a nation. A foundational piece of us was lost. Understanding why it fell is more than just a history lesson. It's about understanding ourselves. Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither did it fall in one. Its decline was a slow burn, a series of crises and failures that chipped away at its power over centuries. The crisis of the 3rd century, from 235 to 284 AD, the empire was in turmoil. Over 20 emperors rose and fell, often through brutal assassinations. Civil wars raged, provinces seceded, and the economy nosedived with rampant inflation. This period weakened Rome to its core. External pressures intensify. Germanic tribes, pushed by migrations in the east, constantly tested Rome's borders. The Goths were particularly dangerous, defeating Emperor Decius in 251 AD and later sacking wealthy cities along the Black Sea coast. The Battle of Adrianople, 378 AD, a turning point. The Visigoths crushed a Roman army, Emperor Valens himself dying on the field. This demonstrated that barbarians weren't easily subdued underdogs, but forces capable of shattering legions. The sack of Rome, 410 AD, the unthinkable becomes reality. Alaric and his Visigoths pillaged the Eternal City. The psychological blow was as devastating as the material one. Rome's sense of invulnerability was shattered. Economic and military decline intertwined. To keep armies in the field, emperors debased coinage, driving rampant inflation and ruining trust in the economy. Desperate for troops, they integrated barbarians into the legions, men without loyalty to Rome itself. The rise of the barracks emperors. Generals held the real power, making and breaking emperors at will. Constant civil wars depleted resources and manpower, while also demonstrating the weakness of centralized authority. Diocletian, in 284 AD, split the empire into east and west in an attempt to stabilize it. This ultimately hastened its division as the two halves drifted further apart. Christianity's focus on an afterlife could be seen as eroding the traditional Roman focus on civic duty, but it also offered a unifying ideology when Constantine adopted it in the early 4th century. It's a complex factor, not a simple cause of downfall. From the late 4th century AD, the Huns put enormous pressure on Germanic tribes, causing a domino effect of migration that put overwhelming pressure on Rome's frontiers. The final deposition in 476 AD, the last Western Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus, was a mere boy deposed by the Germanic general Odoacer. This date is more symbolic than anything. Rome had been a hollow shell for decades by this point. The fall of Rome is a reminder that even the mightiest empires aren't eternal. It warns us against complacency, against letting internal divisions and external threats become an unstoppable tide. The formal end of the Western Roman Empire was in 476 AD, a footnote in history compared to the centuries of decay that preceded it. No single blow brought Rome down, but a slow, relentless erosion of the foundations it was built upon. Rome reminds us that empires built on conquest face the constant threat of overextension. It shows how the decline of civic virtue and a shattered economy cripple nations from within. And it warns about the seductive danger of complacency, of believing that greatness once achieved is guaranteed to last forever. The question isn't just why Rome fell, but whether the lessons it offers still echo through time. Do our societies prioritize unity or division? Do we foster the ideals that make our nations strong, or fall prey to greed and political decay? Do we learn from history's mistakes, or are we destined to repeat the fall of those who came before? Perhaps there is wisdom in the ruins. Perhaps the true legacy of Rome isn't just in the marble and the roads, but in the somber reminder that even the greatest empires become dust.